Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. Today we're going to be talking about the new article from Wall Street Journal on Vince McMahon. This instead of reading it, I'm going to play the audio version of it because I couldn't find a link to the full article myself. So we're just going to do the old listen and pause thing. So for starters, the hook of this thing, there's a little new information. One, he's being sued by Rita Chatterton, and apparently the woman who he apparently assaulted in a spa. That's going to be new information in here. And the talk of his big comeback. Vince McMahon's going to make a comeback, pal. Well, we'll see. We'll talk about it, but let's get there.
WWE's Vince McMahon faces fresh demands from women alleging sexual abuse. Actions come as wrestling company board assesses damage caused by the former CEO's secret hush pacts. By Joe Palazzolo and Ted Mann. December 13, 2022, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Vince McMahon, the majority owner and former chief executive of World Wrestling Entertainment Incorporated, is facing legal demands from two women who allege that he sexually assaulted them, according to internal documents and people familiar with the legal negotiations.
All right. So one of these, of course, is Rita Chatterton. The other one is the young lady from the spa. To say that these are facing new legal demands, well, these are based on changes in California and New York laws, because California and New York, they changed their laws recently that allow people to make allegations going back even further. So Rita Chatterton's thing, I think it was in 1985 or 1986 or something like that. And this spa thing was apparently like in 2006 or something like that. So basically the change in New York and California laws allowed this to open up. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be in the article somewhere.
In a November 3rd demand letter to Mr. McMahon's representative, a lawyer for former wrestling referee Rita Chatterton asked for $11.75 million in damages after she publicly accused Mr. McMahon 3 decades ago of raping her in a limousine. Mr. McMahon has long denied the allegations. The demand letter was reviewed by the Wall Street Journal. In a separate November email to Mr. McMahon's attorney, a lawyer for a former spa manager said that Mr. McMahon assaulted his client in 2011 at a California resort, an incident previously unreported in the media.
All right, so the Rita Chatterton thing, we have gone through that. I have gone through the Rita Chatterton thing. This is going to be part of a playlist. So, if you want to know a little bit more about the Rita Chatterton stuff, how she got the job, all that stuff, I did plenty of videos on that. We're not going to recap it too much. But those are the allegations, apparently. All right.
The private communications between lawyers for the women and Mr. McMahon's longtime attorney, Jerry McDevitt, come as WWE tries to move past Mr. McMahon's 40-year tenure as the company's leader and into a new era. Mr. McMahon retired as WWE chief executive and chairman in July amid a board investigation of sexual misconduct claims against him, and after the Journal reported that he had agreed to pay more than $12 million in secret settlements since 2006 to suppress such allegations. The board investigation found that the payments to the women, though made by Mr. McMahon personally, should have been booked as WWE expenses because they benefited the company. A related board probe seeks to assess damage caused by Mr. McMahon's secret pacts and to determine whether legal action against him by the WWE board is warranted, said people familiar with the matter. Spokesmen for WWE and the company's independent board members declined to comment. Mr. McMahon declined to comment. Mr. McDevitt didn't respond to requests for comment. WWE has declined to discuss the allegations against Mr. McMahon. The company previously said it was cooperating with the board inquiry and taking the claims seriously. Stephanie McMahon, Mr. McMahon's daughter, and former WWE president Nick Khan succeeded Mr. McMahon as co-chief executives, but Mr. McMahon remains the company's largest shareholder. WWE posted its first year of more than $1 billion in revenue in 2021, Mr. McMahon's last full year at the company. Since he left, WWE shares have risen nearly 15%, even as the settlement payments and the misconduct allegations triggered federal investigations. the Journal previously reported. Mr. McMahon has told people he refuses to pay settlements to Ms. Chatterton and the former spa manager, people familiar with his comments said. WWE's auditor, Deloitte & Touche LLP, has advised the company that resolutions of the claims, even if confidential, would possibly have to be disclosed by the company publicly, said a person familiar with the matter.
All right. So the reason why that would be is because it would probably benefit the company similar to the other allegations. So even if he was to, pay these debts off or whatever, it would be similar to the other situations. So they would have to be paid off as well. They would have to be paid similarly and be accounted in the WWE books. Anyway, a piece of this that I kind of wanted to go back to that I didn't stop it in time as they were talking about it was the piece where Vince said that he was going to make a comeback and that he felt that he was given some bad advice by people close to him to step down. Well, that's true of anybody in Vince's situation. He is not in some unique situation where he's given bad advice uniquely. Most people, if you talk to them in terms of public relations and stuff like that, they want these things to go away as quickly as possible. That is one of the top reasons why people even pay people to go away. Because they want these things to be over with. They want them to be done. Go away from me. Again, I said this before, there is more money on the other side of these issues than there are in fighting these issues. Michael Jackson went through this. Tons of other people go through it. They go through it all the time. Whenever you're accused of something, anything, regardless of what it is, there's an entire scam behind people filing frivolous lawsuits against an organization. And they don't want to waste the resources fighting it, so they'll just offer you a settlement and you go away. That's kind of how these things work. I know people are trying to pretend that this is some kind of a moral thing, but it's not. Most people don't want to deal with this kind of stuff. Just arguing with it is pointless, because especially in a situation like this, Vince cannot win this argument. The public relations situation, it will prove that even if Vince wasn't even on the planet at the time that this occurred, people will still believe that it happened. Again, you could absolutely, positively prove that you didn't do it, and people will still believe you did it. Look at Michael Jackson. You can go to court, beat the case, and people will still believe you did it. So none of this stuff matters. The difference, however, is that Vince is no longer in WWE. So the hard line of not wanting to pay Rita Chatterton or the spa manager is basically a situation where he says, well, I don't have to protect the reputation of the company anymore. He's still the chief shareholder, sure, but the company's not his responsibility anymore. Now we're talking about him personally. And he could just say, screw these people. You want to take me to court? Take me to court. Let's see what happens. But this kind of thing, everybody thinks that they will be the one to, I'm going to fight for my reputation in court. And then so you go to any type of financial advisor or anybody that has anything to do with the law, especially in the entertainment industry or whatever, they're always going to say, keep it as quiet as possible. And if you can get it over with, or sign a non-disclosure agreement, or whatever the case may be, just do it and be done with it. Because if you go to court, there's going to be discovery, there's going to be public arguments, people are going to pick apart everything that you say. There's going to be people there, plenty of the vultures, especially in the wrestling media, are going to nitpick every response that you have. I mean, how many times have you seen a guy like either me or a guy like Bixen Span or somebody like that get their hands on a police report or a statement that was made in court, or situations like what took place with when they were fighting the state commissions to try to not be taxed? All that stuff is recorded publicly for FOIAs, from Freedom of Information Acts, so we can get that stuff. If you were to go to, well, I'm pretty sure maybe it's not something like that, but you can get that stuff. You can find the court documents if you were ever to go to court. That's the benefit of just dealing with this stuff outside of court, is that the only thing that they know is that there was a settlement and it's over with. That's the benefit of it. But certain people may say that they don't want to deal with that anymore. And I can understand that Vince is probably like, look, I'm tired of this shit now. You know, he's maintained that this Rita Chatterton thing was not true. So I don't know. The other thing, who the hell knows? We don't know who that person is, that young lady. So they don't know really the ins and outs of the story. I'm hearing it's a different situation, and the other one was apparently in Florida or something like that. I don't know. But ultimately, the idea that he may have gotten some bad advice, well, everybody says that because they were all given essentially the same advice, which is to make it go away as quickly as possible. Vince had to do what was best for the company, and what was best for the company is for him to step down. We can talk about the benefits of that, which is the stock going up 15%, and there being a renewed energy around the company. Even though I don't particularly like the creative of Triple H and the rest of modern WWE, post Vince WWE, to try to mess with that now is pointless, and he would do more harm than good in doing so. And if Vince cares about anything, he cares more about the company than he does really about himself. So the idea that Vince is just going to stomp all over the good morale and everything, doing what it takes for him to take over the company. He can do it, but he wouldn't, because it will cause him, he would lose a lot of his own personal wealth, because he would tank the stock, and he'd probably be subject to all sorts of lawsuits and stuff like that in order to do it, and it's just not worth doing. So even if he regrets stepping down, which he probably does, I'm pretty sure everybody who's ever stepped down, who quit a job or something like that, and they said, man, fuck it, I should have fought it, I'm pretty sure he feels that way. But it's too late. It's too late. And all of the wrestling fans who are running around here thinking that he actually can do it and he's just going to be able to wave a magic wand and make it happen, there's not going to be anything except everybody's just going to scoot a little to the side and he's just going to sit right back at the table. It's like, no. It'll take an absolute hatchet to the company in order for him to take over. He just can't do it just because he's Vince McMahon. Like, it doesn't work that way. Corporate governance, and let's take this, not even the sexual accusations. Vince McMahon was accused of financial malfeasance, like corporate financial malfeasance. For a while, people didn't know whether he was laundering money from the company. And now, after the investigation, they found out that he was spending his personal money to benefit the company, which is completely different than, embezzlement, which is what people thought he was doing, which is taking money from the company to pay off his personal situations. In any event, the company incurred all kinds of legal costs with investigating that. They're still probably going to get sued by some shareholders, probably still going to sue them. That stuff is still not completely closed. He's not just going to take over the company because, well, nobody believes that of the rape cases and stuff like that. Well, guess what? The financial malfeasance stuff is still there. If I'm correct, he might still be under a federal investigation for all of the financial stuff. But let's go back into this thing real quick. Let's see what we got.
Deloitte didn't respond to requests for comment. The 77-year-old Mr. McMahon also has told people that he intends to make a comeback at WWE, according to the people familiar with his comments. He has said that he received bad advice from people close to him to step down and that he now believes the allegations and investigations would have blown over had he stayed, these people said. Miss Chatterton, now 65 years old, was the first female referee in what was then called the World Wrestling Federation. She alleged in 2 televised interviews that Mr. McMahon raped her in the back of a limousine in New York in 1986. She said in the 1992 interviews that Mr. McMahon told her she had to satisfy him if she wanted a $500,000 contract with WWF. WWF stopped booking her for appearances after the alleged rape in 1986, she said. The World Wrestling Federation changed its name to World Wrestling Entertainment in 2002. Ms. Chatterton's lawyer, John Clune, wrote in a November 3rd legal demand letter that the damages to Ms. Chatterton from the alleged rape were hard to overstate. The letter said she has suffered years of ongoing depression, substance abuse, disordered eating, lost income, and overall a decreased quality of life.
All right. So all of this is very nebulous stuff. How could you play? 30 years ago. Wait, it's over 30 years ago. This would have been, if you were born in 1984, you would be 38. So this would be 36 years ago. 36 years of depression, 36 years of eating disorders, 36 years of lost income. I mean, come on. I mean, come on, man. And only because, New York State changed the laws that allow for stuff like this, you get all this. I'm trying to be very nice, but to me, it seems that people are attempting to take advantage of other people. You know, it's hard to find a severe source of. I worked with people with depression. All right, it's hard for people to come up with a singular source of depression. All right, that's just going to be very difficult. Even if it was like the birth or the death of a child or death of a parent or something like that, usually it's still more than that. You know, so even if it was some type of traumatic event, you would have to, for starters, prove that that traumatic event actually occurred, which she cannot do. Secondly, you would have to prove that she has a history of depression, and which stretches back and begins in 1986, which she probably would not be able to do. And if she did, it would be like, okay, your depression kicked in what, 1992? Because again, I've done the history on this. She still did get booked after the supposed rape, but it went through the whole gamut of, she didn't want to do anything while her good friend Andre the Giant was still alive, but then Andre died, so now then she went public. It was a boondoggle. I'm trying to do this stuff off of memory, and I really shouldn't be going off memory, but again, the stuff is there when I read the articles. But it's a little bit more nuanced than, this is the simplified version that the New York, Wall Street Journal gave you. So that's basically a straight version.
Ms. Chatterton referred the journal to Mr. Clune, who declined to comment. New York State recently opened a one-year window that allows victims to file sex abuse lawsuits based on decades-old claims. The look-back window is part of the Adult Survivors Act, a law signed by the New York governor earlier this year. Mr. McMahon alleged in a 1993 lawsuit that Ms. Chatterton was induced to make a false rape charge against him by a former wrestler with an axe to grind. The lawsuit said her attorney at the time demanded $5 million from Mr. McMahon to keep Ms. Chatterton's allegations off the air. WWF dismissed her because she was a danger to herself and others in the ring, according to the lawsuit, which Mr. McMahon withdrew in 1994. Mr. Clune, Ms. Chatterton's current lawyer, said in the demand letter that Ms. Chatterton had passed a polygraph and that multiple sources corroborated her account, two of whom confirmed to the Journal that Ms. Chatterton contemporaneously told them about the alleged rape.
All right, so one of those, a polygraph. Okay, I don't know about that. Polygraphs are not admissible evidence. Anyway, moving on. The people who could corroborate, unless they actually have seen it, like one of the big stories right after the whole Vince thing began was there was a wrestler who kind of I don't want to say if he was a good hand-on, so he's a jobber or whatever, but he was a guy who worked at the WWF at the time in 1986, and he said that, oh yeah, he can corroborate the Rita Chatterton story. Then you look into it and he's like, oh yeah, she told me about it when it happened. That's kind of what it's hearsay. It's like, yeah, she told me about it. Then you go a little bit deeper and you find out they're friends, they trained together and that kind of stuff. He's not like some kind of unbiased observer who came out of nowhere and, is saying, oh yeah, I saw that thing happen with my own two eyes or whatever. It's like, no, she told me it happened the day or so later. And she was crying and yada, yada, yada. It's not the smoking gun that people would pretend that it is, to be quite honest.
John Wisniewski, who wrestled as Greg Valentine, told the Journal that Ms. Chatterton disclosed the allegations while the two were sharing a marijuana cigarette in a Marriott hotel parking lot in Albany, New York, in the 1980s. Mr. Wisniewski said he didn't believe Ms. Chatterton then or now, because he didn't think she was attractive enough for Mr. McMahon. Leonard Inzatari.
All right, so that's Greg the Hammer Valentine. He says that he didn't believe Rita Chatterton then or now because of her lack of attractiveness. A lot of people are attacking Greg Valentine now. which they wouldn't do if Valentine actually came down on Vince's case. Like, if he just said, oh yeah, I was there, people would be like, oh, Greg Valentine is so smart. He's so good. He's such a great guy. He supports victims or whatever the fuck. But since he said that he doesn't believe that it occurred, other people are kind of like, oh, he's such a horrible guy. He doesn't know. And the truth is, he doesn't know. He was probably asked what his opinion was. And because he gave his opinion and they didn't like it, they decided to publish his name and say, oh, he didn't believe it. There were other people who also don't believe it. Bret the Hitman Hart, for instance, did not believe Rita Chatterton was raped by Vince McMahon in a goddamn limousine in 1986. He didn't believe it either. But Greg Valentine is the one who's going to have to eat the bullet on this one. But he's old enough that he doesn't give a fuck. It's not like, he's going to get booked or anything like that. He doesn't care.
Tari, who went to wrestling school with Miss Chatterton, said in a magazine interview published earlier this year that Miss Chatterton was shaking and crying as she recounted the alleged rape while the two of them stood outside the ring before a 1986 WWF event. Mr. Inzatari said in a call with the Journal that he stands by his comments and believes her allegations. The former spa manager alleges she was assaulted by Mr. McMahon in 2011 at a 5-star resort in Southern California while he was in town for a WWE event. The spa manager reported the alleged assault at the time to the resort, according to people familiar with the matter. The spa manager also told her husband about the incident, some of these people said. He drove to the WWE event with a baseball bat and tried to confront Mr. McMahon, but was turned away, according to these.
Okay, come on. This guy, 2011, you're told that your wife is sexually assaulted by one Vincent McMahon, who would have been in his 60s at the time. You show up at the event with a baseball bat. Okay, come on, it's 2011. You know that there's security everywhere. You're never going to get your hands on them. You're better off just going to the courthouse. The idea that he was turned away. Like, yeah, you think he was turned away? You think that they was going to let him attack a celebrity with a baseball bat? Really? Seems kind of nonsensical to me. Again, I don't know these people, so I can't tell you whether they're telling the truth or not. But it sounds pretty fanciful to me. It sounds like something you would do if you knew the guy down the street had assaulted your wife. Not necessarily something a celebrity would do. And when it's a celebrity, the chances of you getting your hands on them pretty slim. I can understand the feeling, but I would think that if somebody's told me, yeah, my wife was sexually assaulted by some celebrity, I would probably be like, you know what, kicking his ass. I want to. Maybe I even try to, but it's not going to happen. We definitely would have filed a lawsuit a long time ago. Definitely over 10 years ago. And guess what? It was illegal then. So the idea that, California changed their laws, which we're about to talk about, in order for these things to occur, it's like, okay, this stuff was illegal then. Rape was illegal in 1986 when Rita Chatterton was supposedly raped. It's not like all of a sudden rape was a new thing that they just came up with within the last couple of years. It's like, no, this stuff long existed. There have been people who have been in jail for rape. There have been people who have been lynched for rape. Long time ago. The idea is that the culture has changed, not the fucking laws. Well, the laws have changed, which, the culture changed and the laws changed. The culture now says that if you accuse somebody of something, you can get money out of it. You don't have to prove that it actually occurred. Now it's the whole, and especially in civil court, it's now this whole preponderance of evidence, whatever the fuck that means. If, you can get 12 people to assume that this person is a bad person, which is what the court of public opinion is. If we could put out a lot of negative attention, we can pressure people into giving away money, huge sums of money, especially when it's only a drop in the bucket compared to him. $11 million is nothing to Vince McMahon. It's literally nothing. He's not going to miss that money. So and the fact that it wasn't made public that she made this stuff, and it's supposed to be a month ago. Rita Chatterton supposedly made this demand a month ago, and it just now becomes public. Should tell you something. That it didn't work. You sending him a message saying, give me $11 million and I'll stop saying that you raped me. And he says, fuck off. And now all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, I'll just tell the Wall Street Journal that that I'm suing you for $11 million or I want $11 million from you. It's like, that means nothing to him. $11 million is literally pennies to Vince. but he's not going to pay it. Not now. Maybe 10 years ago he would have paid it. Maybe even 2 or 3 years ago he would have paid it. Maybe. But today, not likely. When these people are making this stuff, like, you have to understand too, the people, whoever was feeding information to the Wall Street Journal, they made it hot, right? So it was a nice little lick that these people could link up and say, hey, again, if you go and you say, I slipped and fell at McDonald's, give me $15,000 or I'll go away. Somebody in McDonald's will be like, okay, $15,000 and you don't want to talk about it? Okay, whatever. Boom. Take the money, go away. And you go and tell somebody else, yeah, if you go slip and fall at McDonald's, they'll give you $15,000. So then somebody else goes, whoops, slips and falls at McDonald's. Oh, I get $15,000. You do it enough, eventually it starts to add up, which is what happened with Vince. You do these non-disclosure agreements, and you sign deals with people and all that kind of shit. Eventually, over time, that shit does add up to a serious amount of money. But there's plenty of frivolous lawsuits that have occurred, and usually, again, people want to keep that stuff out of circulation.
To these people, the woman's lawyer, Michael Bressler, has been in touch with Mr. McMahon's attorney since at least July, according to people familiar with the discussions. California, like New York, has a new law that allows alleged victims of sex abuse to file lawsuits that would otherwise be barred by the statute of limitations. Starting in January, victims will have a 1-year window to file such claims. Write to Joe Palazzolo at joe.palazzolo@wsj.com and Ted Mann at ted.mann@wsj.com.
All right, so that is the end. All right, okay, so interesting enough story for the wrestling fan in you and me. The idea that Vince is going to make a return, again, no. He'd have to basically trample over a lot of the value of WWE. But here's another thing that I think is pretty funny. I'm going to add this here because it's just funny. There is now currently a change.org petition. Stop Vince McMahon from coming back to WWE. The person wants to get to 200 signatures. They have 151 signatures. 0 of them will matter. All right. But just for kicks, let's read this thing. Vincent Kennedy McMahon earlier this year was entangled in a web of deceit and scandal. He was put under investigation which involved money and women. This image could have forever stained the company and brand known as WWE. He decided to step down in every aspect of his position. Since his departure from the company, employment has increased, revenue has increased, and overall enjoyment and become a watchable product again in grand scale. Vince McMahon stepped down so his company and brand can thrive, which under his daughter Stephanie McMahon and Paul Levesque has done so tenfold. Keeping Mr. McMahon away is best for business. Help us achieve by showing we don't need him running the show anymore. The WWE company and brand has proven to be in good hands. Let's keep it that way. I mean this with all due respect to the McMahon family has done in sports entertainment. Okay. Let's go through not just I read the change.org petition, but let's look at some of the people who actually signed this thing and what were their reasons for signing it. I'm not going to say their names because, there's no point. WWE will be making a huge mistake having him back. That's why he signed it. Vince is not good anymore. That's why he signed it. The old man is out of touch with the world. WWE TV has been watchable since he's been gone. Stay away, Vinnie Mac. WWE is currently doing great under the new leadership. No one wants VKM back. So many exclamation points. Just so many. The WWE product suffered under Vince McMahon for at least the past decade and has vastly improved under the new regime. We do not want nor need Vince, his out-of-touch creative booking, or his scandals back in WWE. Make the goal 100,000. Vince is gross and will ruin WWE and all the work Triple H did. Vince has fucked up too many things in WWE. Him coming back means too many good stars will be buried. Vince is buns. Oh, wait a minute. That took me off guard. I'm so sorry, y'all. Oh, that shit fucked my head up. I'm so sorry. Mm. Vince is buns, and the fact that he is a better hairline than one of homies, and Vince is 77 is insulting, and also Triple H and Steph are them. THEM capital letters. Vince is buns, and the fact that he has a better hairline than one of homies, and Vince is 77 is insulting, and also Triple H and Steph are them. Holy shit. He called Vince buns, which is fucking hilarious. But he said the man is buns, yo. Here goes another one. I'm signing this because I don't want Vince McMahon near that fucking company. His so-called baby, he ran that shit into the ground and made it unwatchable. Yes, I pronounced it right. Unwatchable. Okay? Big names like LA Knight, Keith Lee, Dominic Dijakovic, he made them into a fucking joke. He needs to never be anywhere near the WWE again, as he is washed up and done his time. And his ass is stuck in the early 90s, 2000s, where he will push no one other than a fucking John Cena or Randy Orton. Ooh. These people are... This is excellent. Here's another one. I ain't gonna lie to you, gang. I knocked his daughter's ankles loose, so really can't come back. I'm gonna knock his daughter's ankles loose. What the fuck does that mean? WWE is in good hands with Triple H and does not need or want Vince back. W-A-N-D. That's why I pronounce it that way. WWE will be making a huge mistake having him back. Vince is not good anymore. All right, so there's a change.org petition to stop your boy Vinnie Mac from returning to the company that he founded. And you know what? There's nothing that they can do. None of these signatures matter. The thing that will stop Vince from, coming back is if he thinks it'll actively hurt the brand and it'll hurt the company. And yes, there are some loopholes. He could come back in terms of the Hall of Fame and say goodbye as an on-screen character. Sure, he can actually be hired as an on-screen character if that's what somebody wants to do. But I don't think he would even do that. I can see Vince maybe doing a Hall of Fame. Maybe he'll get on TV that way. Maybe he'll get to say a big goodbye at WrestleMania or something like that. But coming back in a corporate position after you've been not just accused of rape, but also accused of corporate malfeasance and all types of financial crimes that are still, while some of them are perfectly untangled, some of them are still being unwound. That's just not going to happen. We can argue the merits of the cases, of the Rita Chatterton case or the spa manager or any of these other supposed cases that supposedly happened. Arguing those cases are one thing. Actively, I'm sorry, that Vince's Buns thing is fucking with my head. Anyway, Jesus. It's just too damaging to the brand. Can Vince fire the executive directors and all, well, not the executive directors, but the board? Yes. He has the power to do that. Would he do it? No. His daughter's on the board. Triple H is on the board. Shareholders would probably fucking sue him if he did that because there's no reason for it. They increased business by 15%. There would be literally no reason to do that. So while I may complain about the creative direction of Triple H, and I do think that Raw is actually more boring now than when Vince was in control because it's now so much more wrestling, and the people that Triple H has brought back has so little charisma and personality that It's all feel good stuff. It's like, yes, does it feel good that, somebody got wrongs, like a Tegan Knox? Oh, I think Tegan Knox got jobbed out. Her firing was completely and totally, not right. I don't like how that was handled. Same thing with Candice LeRae or Johnny Gargano. It feels good to be able to say, yes, Triple H is fixing the big problems of the company. But then when you look at the overall product and you say to yourself, are we really better off now? Is the product really that much better off than it was before? No. Is there some new ideas? Yes. Are those new ideas good? Not all of them. Some of them are. I'm not going to lie to you and say all of them are bad. Some of them are. But the idea that it's like 100% better or so much better, it's like, no, most of that is emotional. You feel like it's better because it's not Vince. In reality, a lot of the stuff is the same, and there's not a focus on star power and the focus on big events. And Triple H isn't making anybody, if we're being honest. I'm looking at the roster, and you look at Raw and SmackDown, I'm like, really, who has Triple H tried to make a star out of? A lot of the stuff that Triple H has done has been trying to maintain what Vince did. Maintain Gunther. Maintain Austin Theory to a degree. Maintain Lashley and Seth Rollins and these guys. There hasn't been any breakouts. Like, he brought back Braun Strowman and then had Ricochet pin him. It's like, great job, Triple H, thumbs up. Even if he did say something stupid. Did you really sign this guy to a huge contract to bring him back just to have him lose a fucking match to Ricochet? Come on. Like, does that make good business decisions to me? And he hasn't been back on TV since, at least not that I've seen. So it really doesn't make much sense to me to do that. But, we're stuck with what we're stuck with. All right. Anyway, let's wrap this thing up. What do you guys think of this article? Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.